and Gomorrah. And there's something creepy going on, not just with the overt homosexual sins that were going on in Sodom, but the whole system in Sodom was corrupt and violent. And Abram says, you know what, I don't want to be linked with those people. I don't want to be lined up with those folks. And so he says no to the king of Sodom. We live in a tension in our world. And if you want to look up these passages later, 1 Corinthians 5:10 and 2 Corinthians 6:14 to 16. We live in a world where we see corrupt, broken people. People that will tear us down if we enter into relationships with them. And Paul says in the 1 Corinthians passage, he says, you know what, you can't avoid these people because you'd have to go out of the world. But in 2 Corinthians 6, he says, don't be yoked with them. Don't be linked with them in these intimate, close relationships like marriage and business dealings and friendships that are deeper than just the superficial. God says, make sure you have a good definition of success and you don't compromise yourself. But the biggest thing that Abram was doing is that he was learning about who God is. And it's interesting, back in Genesis 14, verse 22, Abram raises his hand to the Lord, the God Most High, the creator of heaven and earth. And that description of God reveals and shows us what Abram is thinking about God at this time. The Lord, the God Most High. Now, we read those words and we're familiar with them. They're good, solid Bible words. But in Abram's day, those were radical words. Because you've got to understand the spiritual climate of Abram's day. Everybody that Abram rubbed shoulders with had their local gods. And then there were gods that were the high gods, the big gods. And they were the ones that were over the local gods, the regional gods. One author suggested a way of looking at this, and I think it's brilliant. It helps me really understand this. Is that think about local and national government. If you wanted a culvert replaced on your road, who would you call? Would you call the Department of Transportation in Washington, D.C. and say, you know what? We need to replace this culvert on this road. Now, 10 years later, you may get this culvert replaced. Because the people in Washington are so far removed and they've got so many things to worry about in terms of national policy and all the things that they worry about. But if you called the county or your township and said, hey, we need this culvert replaced because it's getting washed out, most likely they're going to be a lot more responsive. And so the county level, the township level were the local gods. And the Most High God was in Washington. Now don't go political on that, okay? You get the analogy. Okay? Here's the amazing thing. When Abram says the God, the Most High, what he's saying is that this high God, the number one God, the top of the heap God, the God above all gods, has revealed himself to me. I've got a personal relationship with God Most High. And that's something that people in Abram's day could not claim. They had their local, regional gods that they felt some sort of relationship with. But for the God Most High to know him and have a relationship with him, they said, there's no way, we can't do that. But here Abram's saying, I know this God. This is the God who told me to leave my home and leave my family and leave everything I was familiar with and go to a land that I didn't know about. know this God. Think about it this way. You're sitting in a restaurant in Bemidji. Joe Mauer or Anne Hathaway or Matt Damon walk in. That's an athlete and an actor and actress, in case you're not, don't know who they are. They're famous people, and the room goes silent. And everybody's looking like, Joe Mauer's in the McDonald's in Bemidji. What's he doing here? And everybody's going, ooh, we're in the presence of greatness. People are taking pictures, and there's this crowd around. People are wondering, should we go up for autographs and that? And you're feeling pretty small, pretty insignificant, pretty ordinary. Nobody has ever stopped and stared at you when you've walked into McDonald's. Unless you drop your food all over the place, right? But here's what Abram's claiming. Is that I'm no longer insignificant. I no longer mean nothing to the God who created everything. To the Most High God. I know Him personally. I've got a relationship with Him. And Abram's got this huge vision of who God is and what He's like. This isn't something Abram's decided to find out on his own. This is something God in His graciousness, God in His love, God in His mercy has shown Himself to Abraham and what He's like. So Abram says, I know the God, the one true God. I can claim an intimacy, I can claim a relationship with this God. And I can claim this relationship with the Creator of the heavens and the earth. I know the one true God. The God who made me. The God who said, you know what, you're not here by accident. The God who said, you have value. I've stamped my image on each and every person. And Abram says, I'm going to be dependent on that God. For my next heartbeat, for my next breath, for my next meal. For whatever God brings me, I'm going to be dependent. And that's why when we have this huge vision of who God is, we don't compromise. Now, none of us are going to go rescue relatives that get hauled off by people up in Lake of the Woods County. Maybe the Canadians come down, though. We can go rescue. And none of us are going to have a king, a mayor, a governor give us this offer we can't refuse. And so Abram's story is somewhat distant and somewhat abstract from our lives unless we think about how we can make it our own. And I think I want to suggest 3 ways as we wrap things up today about how we can live without compromise. And the first is what we believe about the world and about God. Beliefs, doctrine. One reason why we talk from the Bible, we teach from the Bible, we take the Bible as it speaks to us, is because we believe it's God's Word. We believe that God